Now, this is only referencing one Q drop. 1972. Are you watching Hannity? Did you hear what Texas Congressman just stated? Hubbard or Q? Now let's go watch Hannity.
Live from New York. All right, Tucker, please send my regards, by the way, to the family. And thank you. Welcome to Hannity. You will not believe what we're about to tell you tonight. It'll take the full hour. Twice demoted DOJ, Bruce Ohr, was grilled by Republican lawmakers for 7 hours behind closed doors earlier today. The information he revealed is tonight blowing this case wide open in terms of a fraud that was committed multiple times against the FISA court, all to get Donald Trump and his campaign and undermine his presidency. Everyone who signed off on these FISA requests signed off on fraudulent documents, and they knew they were fraudulent. Now, you won't hear this information anywhere else. Of course, your media is obsessed with hating Trump. But in minutes, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about Bruce Ohr's testimony today, including damning new revelations surrounding the rampant abuse of power in our FISA court system. What we're about to reveal should rock the country to its core. And also tonight, we have a breaking new report from John Solomon about a clear case of actual, real, with proof, Russian collusion, connecting the dots between Bruce Ohr, the DOJ, and a Putin-linked Russian oligarch. It happened. Robert Mueller, where are you? Jeff Sessions, pay attention. Now, we'll cover all the latest sad examples of actual fake news from CNN, one of their key sources. Cohen attorney Lanny Davis was feeding them a bill of lies. He says it wasn't true. He's completely backtracked about his claims related to Trump-Russia collusion, but CNN stands by their tainted reporting. Amazing. And coming up, I have a message for fake news CNN and their media reporters. They watch this show because it's more interesting. Maybe they need to watch their own network. And a strong new economic indicator, more evidence that the economy is just blowing it through the roof. All of that plus, we are tracking primary races in multiple states. Now, just moments ago, it was announced that Fox News is projecting that Trump ally Ron DeSantis will win the Republican primary for Florida governor, and Fox News is projecting that Governor Rick Scott has done a great job in Florida. He will win the GOP Senate primary, and he will be going up against Bill Nelson. We'll bring you the results as we have them. All right, but first, sit tight, buckle up. Time for our jam-packed opening monologue edition. All right, tonight we are blowing this case about Bruce Ohr, FISA abuse, wide open. I've been on the phone with sources all day and all night, people who were in the room during Ohr's testimony. We did learn today that Bruce Ohr said that he understood the Steele dossier would never have been accepted in a court of law. He understood it. There's 65 pages of notes and texts, and then meetings between him and Christopher Steele. He said the FBI knew about the seedy relationship with Steele. So much to cover. Stay with us. We'll break it wide open. But there's no doubt that a conspiracy to commit fraud against FISA court judges did in fact take place. Now let's dive into the testimony from Bruce Ohr today. Now remember, he is the twice demoted DOJ official who once helped ex-foreign spy, paid for by Hillary, Christopher Steele, spread all these anti-Trump Russian lies throughout the highest levels of our government. And today, during a closed-door hearing, Bruce Ohr was grilled on the Hill by members of the House Oversight and the Judiciary Committees for 7 hours. Now, the crucial issue at play here is rampant FISA abuse surrounding Christopher Steele's dirty dossier with Russian lies that Hillary Clinton illegally funneled through a law firm into Fusion GPS, hiring then Christopher Steele. Now, our sources say that that topic was front and center at the hearing today. Get this. Sarah Carter is now reporting, she'll join us later, that we now know that the FBI was aware of Steele's blatant and extreme anti-Trump bias before they used his dossier as the bulk of their FISA court applications. Remember, Bruce Ohr even wrote Steele was, quote, desperate that Donald Trump not get elected. He was passionate that Donald Trump not being president of the United States. Sounds just like Carter, just like Page and Strzok. And Sarah Carter also reporting that today's hearing proved that the FBI was using Bruce Ohr as a back channel for Steele's anti-Trump intel, even after the FBI cut all formal ties with Christopher Steele over trust issues. And he's saying that the FBI knew everything. And despite this, Congressman John Ratcliffe, who was a part of today's hearing, is telling us that Orr was not mentioned in any of the FBI FISA applications against the Trump campaign associate. Now, Congressman Ratcliffe, Sarah Carter, Greg Jarrett, and John Solomon will all be with us tonight. This is yet another sign of the FBI's blatant effort to hide the true nature of Clinton's bought and paid.
I've been exploring the wireless world of Sprint, and I've learned Sprint is building America's mobile 5G network.
No.
For Steele's dirty Russian dossier. It was campaign op research. It was compromised. It was never verified or corroborated. It turned out to be lies, Russian lies, funded by the Clinton campaign and the DNC. They funneled the money through a law firm, hiring Fusion GPS, that then hired Christopher Steele, an ex-foreign spy that had really seedy Russian connections, we now know, who was working with and for Fusion GPS. And by the way, was also on the FBI payroll. This is really the cherry on the top. He was working with Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie Orr. The Orrs were literally profiting off their relationship with Christopher Steele. Orr said today that he disclosed that to the FBI. Really? And the FBI was okay with that? Now, at the end, this is where we are. We now know for a fact that in 4 separate FISA court applications, FISA court judges were repeatedly lied to, knowingly lied to. The American people, you were all lied to, all in an effort by high-ranking government bureaucrats to steal, sway, rob an election, and at all costs stop Donald Trump from winning and then to destroy his presidency. Now, communications between Orr and Christopher Steele, 60-some-odd pages of it. It shows that Steele was extremely concerned about being exposed with reason, because this level of corruption and abuse should make every single American citizen sick. A blatant example of what I've been telling you, a 2-tier justice system. Hillary Clinton gets a free pass. Trump is literally targeted by our government with her salacious, phony campaign op research put together by a foreign national using Russian sources for lies. We have a brand new article tonight from Greg Jarrett. He'll be with us too. He details how the one-time FBI director, James Comey, took control of the Clinton investigation, took it right out of the hands of the field offices, and twisted the facts, softened the language, exonerated Clinton, rigged her investigation from the very beginning. There really never was an investigation. Clinton was never going to be found guilty because she was the favored candidate. And meanwhile, the FBI, the Department of Justice, they worked hand in hand with ex-foreign spy Christopher Steele to use his phony lies to open an investigation into allegedly Trump-Russia collusion. They gained these FISA warrants illegally against a Trump campaign associate. They potentially leaked that information. We know they leaked it to the general public to sway opinion with lies. This is the stuff that happened in the former Soviet Union. All of this despite everybody knowing, including Orr admitting today, that Steele's shady past, that his work for the Clinton campaign, that his blatant bias against Trump, that his leaks to the press, that he was let go by the FBI that was also paying him. It's no wonder President Trump keeps talking about a witch hunt, and he's livid with his attorney general. Mr. Sessions, where are you tonight? Why are you standing by and literally doing nothing to fix what is clearly a horrific inequality in our justice system? Now, today, Senator Lindsey Graham, he summed it up best. Let's take a look.
More to caution the public. A lot of people have tried to convict President Trump. Don't be so fast. I've seen no evidence of collusion after 2 years. Mueller's looking at it. We'll see what he says. Plenty of corruption in the Department of Justice and the FBI. Should be stunning. Not one Democrat seems to care. Reverse the roles.
What corruption? What do you mean?
Well, okay, just imagine if the Republican Party had hired a foreign agent to go to Russia to get dirt on Hillary Clinton, and they used it to get a warrant and never told the court about it. It'd be front page story everywhere. That's pretty corrupt when the two FBI agent and the U.S. attorney, the DOJ lawyer, it's our job to stop Trump. Can you imagine what would happen if it's our job to stop Clinton?
Now, we have a lot of breaking news tonight right here in this program. In other words, we do have news to break as it relates to Russian collusion. It's been found. I know Robert Mueller cares about taxi cab medallions and old income tax reports and loan applications. Maybe Mr. Mueller should take note of what we're reporting tonight, because we have a new report from John Solomon. follow the bouncing ball. Bruce Orr, the DOJ, closely working with a Putin-linked Russian oligarch for years. And most recently, the FBI tried to squeeze the oligarch for information surrounding Trump-Russia collusion, including a theory that Paul Manafort was leading Trump campaign's collusion efforts. By the way, he'd been into a lawsuit with Paul Manafort, and even he said that's ridiculous, it's absurd. And according to Solomon, the oligarch actually used the word preposterous. Now think about it.
I've been exploring the wireless world of Sprint, and I've learned Sprint is building America's mobile 5G network. I've also discovered the human world through digits.
This is the same Russian oligarch that the U.S. won't even allow into the country. He met with Bruce Orr. He met with other top officials. You've got to be kidding me. How much more insane does this get? You cannot make this up. We reached out to Orr, the DOJ, the Russian oligarch involved. Of course, we didn't get a response. We're going to have a lot more on all of these issues. All of the key players are joining us tonight. But meanwhile, the biggest cheerleader of Trump-Russia collusion has been caught red-handed yet again, reporting fake news to you, the American people. In July, fake news CNN, they broke a huge bombshell story detailing shocking evidence about Trump's involvement in the now infamous 2016 Trump Tower meeting. We've got the tape to remind you.
Well, Chris, tonight, sources with knowledge tell myself and Carl that Michael Cohen claims that then-candidate Donald Trump knew in advance about the June 2016 meeting in Trump Tower in which Russians were expected to offer his campaign dirt on Hillary Clinton. Crucially, these sources tell us that Cohen is willing to make that assertion to the special counsel, Robert Mueller.
It's very, very significant because the president has denied any foreknowledge of this event, and this meeting goes to the question of intent to collude.
You've been saying for a year that we need to follow the money, follow the lies, and figure out this cover-up. So how did you do it in this case? Talk to us about how you got this reporting.
Oh, well, I talked to sources. Cohen was saying that Donald Trump, the candidate for president of the United States at the time, had authorized the go-ahead for that meeting to take place with his son.
Or Humpty Dumpty, CNN fake news. And according to BuzzFeed, one of the unnamed sources in the report was Cohen attorney Lanny Davis. He's now completely backtracking on his claims to fake news CNN. He says that his client, in fact, does not have information of Trump's knowledge of the 2016 Trump Tower meeting. He's saying that CNN's anonymous sources, including himself, we were wrong. And after all, Michael Cohen testified under oath. This is all coming out, that he had no knowledge of Trump's involvement in that meeting or anything else. And we also have a new wrinkle in the story. When CNN published their, quote, bombshell report, they wrote that Lanny Davis declined to comment in an article where he was the primary source. That's fake news at its worst. Now, tonight, CNN is actually laughably standing by that horribly flawed story. Spokesperson even said to us they are confident in their phony reporting. It seems like a perfect story for some members, media reporters at CNN, but I guess they're probably too busy watching this show every night because they can't even watch their fake news network and their own terrible reporting that comes from them every day. Now, the debacle surrounding Lanny Davis is just the latest in a long line of faulty reporting from fake news CNN. 2017, 3 CNN employees resigned after a fake story about our friend Anthony Scaramucci. A few months later, CNN was slammed and publicly embarrassed over a fake report about Donald Trump Jr. And let's never forget CNN's fake reporting over President Trump. Remember when he was with the Japanese Prime Minister and they were feeding the fish? Now, since the very moment Donald Trump announced his run for office, CNN has been blinded by their hatred. And now, while the network ramps up this crazy rhetoric and faulty reporting to destroy the president, the country is actually improving by leaps and bounds. Stock market breaking new records. We're seeing historic low levels of unemployment in 14 states. African Americans, Hispanic Americans, women in the workforce, youth unemployment, a 52-year low. And now we have more great news that they'll never report. Consumer confidence today closing at an 18-year high. So much more good news to report on the economic front. We'll get to all of that. Joining us now, more information on Bruce Orr's testimony. He is Texas Congressman John Ratcliffe, and from the Hill, John Solomon. We'll start with you, Congressman. Let us talk about what we learned today Is it true? Did Bruce Orr ever testify before Robert Mueller? Did that come up today?
It did come up, Sean. I have to be careful. I know your viewers want information, but there's a confidentiality agreement. But you have good sources. I listened to your monologue, and you're on track with respect to.
Well, I heard he never testified to Robert Mueller, and you're smiling, so I'm guessing that's a good guess. Now, John, wouldn't that mean a lot if he didn't testify before Mueller, considering what we have 60 some odd pages of notes, all the meetings, and the fact that he said under testimony today that in fact this Steele dossier could never be used in a court of law, but it is used as the basis for a FISA warrant to get FISA court.
We're not afraid of the IRS. Judicial Watch is fighting the IRS right now in federal court, hold it accountable to the rule of law over its illegal
court approval on spying on Americans?
I will. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
I didn't know which John you were talking to.
I'll ask John Solomon first. John Solomon.
I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. Listen, many of the members I talked to said they thought that was one of the most important revelations today, that Bruce Orr said he's never heard, nor has his wife ever heard from Special Counsel Mueller. If Mueller wanted to get to the bottom of this, the questions that Congress has raised that are now in the public, whether the FISA warrant was legitimate and the origins of this investigation were legitimate, you would think at the very least he'd want to talk to Bruce Orr and find out why was he playing the interview role. I was told today emphatically Bruce Orr had said he was never interviewed. I think that raises a lot of questions for people in Congress. What is Bob Mueller really up to?
He worked. Now, we have 63 pages of text, emails, and handwritten notes, Congressman, between Orr and Steele. Steele had already been fired for lying and leaking. He got paid not only by Clinton through Fusion GPS and the DNC through Fusion GPS, but he also was on the record as hating Donald Trump, saying he was desperate that Trump not get elected and passionate about him not being president. Did he comment on any of that today?
He did. I can probably summarize it the best way like this, Sean. When the Department of Justice walks into the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and says, we want a warrant to spy on an American citizen, and the central piece of our evidence in our case is a dossier, there's an obligation to say, oh, and by the way, the number 4 person in our organization and his wife had major prominent operational roles with respect to how that dossier was put together, how the FBI received it, and by the way, they were paid handsomely by third parties for that. Those are what we call material facts. The material facts that have to be disclosed, and in this case, they weren't.
But he said today, as I understand it, that in fact he told the FBI that his wife had put this together, and they still used him as a back channel. So they never told the FISA court that piece of evidence. They never told the FISA court who paid for the dossier. So the only conclusion is now we know, it's irrefutable at this point, that the FISA court was repeatedly lied to in 4 separate FISA applications. Is that a true statement?
Well, here's what he said, or here's what I can tell you about his testimony today. My real question walking in, Sean, was what did the FBI and the Department of Justice know about Bruce Orr and his wife?
The FBI knew, I'm told.
His testimony today was that he gave us a list of a half a dozen senior FBI and Department of Justice officials that he told of his involvement, his wife's involvement, all of the details of their interactions with Christopher Steele, with Glenn Simpson, with the payment. And these are names, Sean, that would be familiar to you. I've heard you say some of these names on your program before. And I can tell you as someone that has reviewed the FISA applications, the unredacted versions, I can't talk about what's in there, but I can tell you what's not in there. And what's not in there is any information about Nellie and Bruce Orr.
Well, so basically, I want to go back to my question, though. The FISA fraud was committed multiple times on a FISA court. They purposely withheld information to the court as it relates to the FBI knew that, in fact, Steele, that it, in fact, put this together and that he never verified it. And if they never told the court that Hillary paid for it, isn't that a fraud committed on the court? Isn't that lying to a court?
If Bruce Orr's testimony today was truthful and accurate, then what you're saying about the information that was not submitted to the FISA court. It should have been. It's a big problem.
A big problem, or is it against the law to lie to a court?
Well, as a former officer of the court, you have an obligation to have a full and complete disclosure of facts. And
if I lied to the court, do you think you could get me out of prison?
Hey, there is nothing more sacrosanct than Americans' civil liberties.
Right.
So what we're talking about here,
I wouldn't think of it. I would, just like you pay in taxes. Do it. Just do it.
If I were one of those folks that were identified today, and I can tell you that in at least one case, one of the names that he identified for us today signed one of those FISA applications, I'd retain a really good lawyer.
I think his name's JC, but I'm just guessing. There's one of them anyway. Thank you, Congressman, for being with us. John Solomon, let's go to your breaking report because you go into great detail. Here we have, you tie it all together as it relates to
JP is the best person to be the next governor of Illinois because I've never seen so much more passion, more dedication.
This Russian oligarch, and Bruce Orr, and Steele, and the Department of Justice. I'll let you give a summary of this report.
Yeah, listen, the FBI had a 10-year relationship with Oleg Deripaska, the head of the largest aluminum company in Russia. He funded $25 million rescue mission for the FBI to try to rescue a former agent. That's a good thing. In 2015, Ohrs showed up and asked him some questions about organized crime in Russia. He tried to give him some guidance. In 2016, a more consequential event occurred. The FBI showed up in September 2016, 1 month before the FISA application, and they said, listen, we think Paul Manafort is colluding with Russia to help Trump win the election. We now know where they got that information. They got it from Christopher Steele. That's in his dossier. And Deripaska tells him, a trusted guy who's been with him, helping him for 10 years, I'm telling you, it's preposterous. It's not happening. You got it wrong.
You wrote in this piece that collusion occurred, Russian collusion. Yeah. And you tell a tale of Ohrs, Steele, Deripaska, the FBI, and DOJ. Tie it all together so everybody understands completely.
We talk about any contact with Russia must be terrible. Well, the FBI had lots of contacts with Russians, and many times they got benefit from it, right? They got help in trying to locate a former agent. They got information waving them off bad intelligence. But here's the real problem with collusion that goes into the FISA warrant. When Deripaska tells them, hey, you're wrong about Manafort, I can tell you, you're wrong about Manafort, they had an obligation a month later to go to the court and say, well, listen, Steele's telling us this, but this Russian guy we've had a lot of good record with, he's telling us something different. There's no evidence that occurred. Another thing that Steele...
and by the way, Deripaska, this is not just any oligarch. This is a friend of Putin's. This is a guy that frequently appeared with Putin.
If you look at video clips, you'll see him in many of the clips with Putin when there were public meetings. He's a very powerful man.
So it's interesting that all of these other players, Bruce or others, they're all meeting with Deripaska, who's friends with Putin. This is supposed to be about collusion, and we're talking about taxi medallions and bank loan applications now.
For people who are frustrated by the case, they see this double standard, right? Democrats can collude with the Russians, get whatever information they need. They can buy it. They can hire a British intelligence guy. But when Republicans have a meeting with a Russian, it suddenly sounds like it's criminal. That's been what's frustrated people so much about the unfairness and the telling of this story so far.
Congressman, we'll give you the last word on this time.
Well, as a former federal prosecutor, I got to tell you, what I heard today in Bruce Orr's testimony was shocking, alarming, and disappointing. These types of things didn't happen in the Justice Department where I worked, and
let me ask the question another way, Congressman. We're running out of time. You're a former prosecutor, and
yes, sir.
I have a lot of respect for prosecutors. It's a hard job, especially people that don't go on witch hunts, and they believe in equal justice under the law. Is there anybody that could do what happened here that's watching this show tonight that could omit purposely key information in an application to get a warrant to spy on, in this case, an opposition party campaign associate in the lead up to an election and not be arrested and put in jail? Those people that put their name on those FISA warrant applications, aren't they swearing by the truthfulness, the veracity of those applications? And if they knowingly withhold information in those applications, aren't they